Okay, so today we're going to dig into a story that is honestly just wild. Imagine a time not that long ago where the most valuable thing on Earth wasn't gold, it wasn't oil, nope, it was bird poop. Seriously, let's get into it. So let me ask you something to kick things off. When you picture, building a house, what do you think of? Wood, steel, concrete, right? The usual suspects. But what if I told you the world's most surprising building material was something else entirely? Well, get this. For some penguins, the answer is poop. Yeah, you heard me right. They built their homes out of it. We're talking generations of accumulated bird droppings, or guano, as it's called. And believe me, this weird little fact is just the tip of the iceberg for a much, much bigger story. All right, so first up, let's meet these little architects, the Humboldt penguins of South America. So why on earth would you build a nest out of guano? Well, for these penguins, it's not just some weird choice. It's a matter of survival. They live on these super hot, rocky coasts in Peru and Chile, where there's basically no natural shelter. So what do? They dig these awesome little burrows right into these thick, dense layers of guano. It's like perfect insulation. It keeps their eggs and chicks safe from the blazing sun and away from predators. It's a custom-built, temperature-controlled, super safe home. Okay, but that begs the question, right? How do you even get mountains of poop big enough to dig a tunnel in? The answer is just off the coast, in what is basically one of the most powerful ecological engines in the entire world. And here it is, the Humboldt Current System. So what's an upwelling system? Basically, it's this amazing process where cold water, packed with nutrients from the deep ocean, gets pulled up to the surface. It's like a constant fertilizer for the sea, and it creates this absolute explosion of life. We're not exaggerating when we say it's the most productive system like it anywhere on the globe, a true food superhighway. And the food chain here is super simple but incredibly powerful. You've got the upwelling, which feeds plankton. That plankton then feeds just insane numbers of Peruvian anchovies. And guess who eats the anchovies? Yep, massive colonies of seabirds, especially guys like the Guano cormorant and the Peruvian booby. And for literally thousands of years, these birds have been feasting and, well, pooping, all in the same spots, building up actual mountains of guano on these islands. Now, for a long, long time, this was all just a local thing. But then, the 19th century rolls around, and scientists finally figure out what made this stuff, this guano, so unbelievably special. The secret? It's all in the chemistry. Guano is just jam-packed with nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. And if you know anything about gardening, you know those are the big three, the essential nutrients for plant growth. And here's the kicker. Because the coast of Peru is so incredibly dry, all those amazing nutrients never got washed away by rain. They were perfectly preserved, making it hands down the most powerful natural fertilizer anyone had ever seen. I mean, its power was almost like magic. The famous chemist Humphrey Davy wrote back in 1813 that the guano from Peru could make sterile plains fruitful. Just think about that. And this realization, well, it was about to kick off a total global frenzy. And just like that, the world entered what historians now call the Guano Age. It was a full-blown 19th century gold rush, except everyone was scrambling for bird poop. This timeline really shows you how fast things escalated. The Incas knew this stuff was valuable way back in the 1500s. They even protected the birds with the death penalty. But it wasn't until the explorer Alexander von Humboldt brought it to Europe's attention in 1802 that things really took off. By the 1840s, the boom was in full swing, changing farming all over the world. It got so crazy that in 1856, the U.S. passed a law, the Guano Islands Act, basically letting its citizens claim any uninhabited island with guano on it. The whole thing only fizzled out around 1910 when scientists invented the Haber-Bosch process, which let them make synthetic fertilizer by pulling nitrogen right out of the air. But, of course, this global obsession, it came with a huge, devastating price tag. And that brings us right back to our little penguin architects and their guano homes. The mining was just brutal, totally unsustainable. Workers were sent in to scrape these islands completely clean, just stripping away thousands of years of this accumulated guano. And by doing that, they literally destroyed the nesting habitat, the homes, that the Humboldt penguins and all the other seabirds needed to survive. The architecture of an entire ecosystem was just torn down.
If you want to understand just how bad this was, just look at this number, 21 million. That was the estimated population of the guano cormorant, the main guano-producing bird, before this whole rush started. 21 million birds.
And this is the population now, around 2 million. That is a staggering collapse, over 90%. And it wasn't just one thing, it was a perfect storm. Their homes were destroyed by the mining, you had climate events like El Nino messing things up, and they suddenly had to compete for their only food source, the anchovies, with massive industrial fishing fleets.
So that brings us to today. The gold rush is over, but a new, more subtle conflict is now playing out in the Humboldt Current.
The two main players are still the same, the Guano cormorant and the Peruvian booby. They're both after the same prize, anchovies, but they have totally different strategies for getting them. The cormorant is a pursuit diver. It actually swims underwater, chasing the fish down. The booby, on the other hand, is a plunge diver. It dives from way up in the air, hitting the water like a torpedo. And this chart really shows you the crucial difference. See, anchovy schools usually hang out at a median depth of around 7 meters. The Peruvian booby, our torpedo, can really only hit the top layer, diving to about 2 meters. But the cormorant, it can get down to a median of 4 meters, and it can go a lot deeper if it needs to. So why does this matter? Well, when there are tons of anchovies and they're close to the surface, it's a party for everyone. Both birds do great. But when the anchovies are hard to find, or if they swim deeper, maybe to escape fishing nets or because the surface water is too warm, the cormorant has a huge advantage. Its ability to dive deep means it can still get to the food, while the booby is stuck at the surface, competing for whatever's left. And that's what brings us to our final question. The big, crazy fight for the white gold, the guano, that's over. But a new battle is just getting started. This time, it's for the living resource that made the guano in the first place. With industrial fishing and climate change putting more and more pressure on the world's anchovies, these little differences in hunting strategy could be the thing that decides who makes it and who doesn't. The story of guano, it turns out, isn't really over. It's a stark reminder of how a fight over one resource can ripple outwards, becoming a fight for survival itself.